Hello learners, this is Habeeba with Excelwithme. If you like the video, please do like, share, subscribe and comment below. Let's start today's topic. I have done the second topic, testing the hypothesis. Continuation of that part is testing the significance of difference between two group means t-test and among group means one-way ANOVA, f-test, two-way ANOVA and ANCOVA. Let's start with the t-test. It is one of the most popular statistical techniques used to test whether mean difference between two groups is statistically significant. Null hypothesis stated that both means are statistically equal, whereas alternative hypothesis stated that both means are not statistically equal, that is, they are statistically different to each other. Now, t-test are three types: one sample t-test, independent sample t-test and paired sample t-test. Now, one sample t-test, the one sample t-test is a statistical procedure used to determine whether mean value of a sample is statistically same or different with mean value of its parent population from which sample was drawn. Now, to apply this test, mean, standard deviation, size of the sample, that is test variable, and population mean or hypothetical mean value, that is test value, are used. Sample should be continuous variable and normally distributed. Now, one sample t-test is used when sample size is more than 30, in case less than 30, and case sample size is greater or equal to 30, used to prefer one sample z-test over one sample t-test, although for one sample z-test population standard deviation must be known. If population SD standard deviation is not known, one sample t-test can be used at any sample size. In one sample z-test, tabulated value is z value instead of t value in one sample t-test. To apply this test through popular statistical software, that is statistical package for social sciences, SPSS, in that we can analyze, compare means, one sample t-test. Now, t-test and among group means students t-test, analysis of variance, that is ANOVA, and analysis of covariance, ANCOVA, are statistical methods used in the testing of hypothesis for comparison of means between the groups. Now, the students t-test is used to compare the means between two groups, whereas ANOVA is used to compare the means among three or more groups. Now, one-way ANOVA f-test, in ANOVA first gets a common p-value. A significant p-value of the ANOVA test indicates for at least one pair between which the mean difference was statistically significant. To identify that significant pair or pairs, we use multiple comparisons. Now, two-way ANOVA and ANCOVA. In ANOVA, when using one categorical independent variable, it is called one-way ANOVA, whereas for two categorical independent variables, it is called two-way ANOVA. When using at least one covariate to adjust with dependent variable, ANOVA becomes ANCOVA. This is very, very important. We need to understand about ANOVA, one-way ANOVA, this one, and then two-way. Then ANOVA, how it becomes ANCOVA. That is ANOVA when using one categorical independent variable, that is ANOVA, one-way ANOVA. Whereas two categorical independent variables here, that is two-way. One categorical independent, here two categorical independent variables. Now, when using at least one covariate to adjust with dependent variable, ANOVA becomes the ANCOVA. Very important points related to these three we have to remember. When the size of the sample is small, mean is very much affected by the outliers, so it is necessary to keep sufficient sample size while using these methods. Now, steps in hypothesis testing. Hypothesis building, like other tests, there are two kinds of hypothesis: null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis assumes that there is a statistically significant difference exists between the means, whereas the null hypothesis, opposite to that, assumes that there is no statistically significant difference exists between the means. We have learned it many times. Now, computation of test statistics in these tests. First step is to calculate test statistics, that is called t value in students t-test and f value in ANOVA test, also called calculated value. It is calculated after putting inputs from the samples in statistical test formula. Now, in students t-test, calculated t value is ratio of mean difference and standard error, whereas in the ANOVA test, calculated f value is ratio of the variability between groups with the variability of the observations within the groups. Now, tabulated value at degree of freedom of the given observations and desired level of the confidence, usually a two-sided test which is more powerful than one-sided test. Corresponding tabulated value of the t-test or f-test is selected from the statistical table. Now, comparison of calculated value with tabulated value and null hypothesis. If the calculated value is greater than the tabulated value, then reject the null hypothesis, where null hypothesis states that means are statistically same between the groups. Now, as the sample size increases, corresponding degree of freedom also increases. For a given level of confidence, higher degree of freedom has lower tabulated value. That's the reason when the sample size increases, its significance level also improves. That is, p-value is decreasing. That's all for now. I'll come up with the next video with the next class. If you like the video, please do like, share, subscribe and comment below. Thanks for your attention and time. Happy learning.